Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome all of you for a brief discussion. Whatever we have at present, our clinical knowledge with all of you, and if we have any queries, there is one part which is showing chat. At the end of presentation, you can ask us, start asking the questions on the chat. Then I'll be answering whatever minimal knowledge at present what I have, and if you have any clinical experience with regard to that, you can also tell us, which may help us to know more. Because at present about the COVID-19, we are very much in a dilemma. What is the better decision? What is the best decision? What is the worst decision in this? Because we have very less clinical knowledge and any previous studies or anything, we are very very new for this scenario. So, lot of challenges at present we are facing is mainly now. Should we do or not the gynecological procedures? Are only emergency or elective cases we should be taking up? It should be done laparoscopically or by laparotomy. How to minimize, optimize the care for the patients, healthcare professionals, or should we test routinely for COVID for all these patients? So all these are challenges and queries what we are facing at the present situation. When we come to severe acute respiratory distress syndrome coronavirus 2, it's a respiratory pathogen. It has RNA and the infectious virus that are detected primarily from human upper and lower respiratory tract specimen. It is measuring around zero point 0.1 microns in size. It is transmitted uh, through respiratory water droplets and in the gas suspension. Through the respiratory water droplet, the size is more than 20 microns, and through gas suspension, it is less than 10 microns. So why it is important for us clinically it has implication for the suspension time and the filtration requirement for our instruments for our exposure. So SARS-CoV-2 RNA has been detected even in the blood and the stool specimen. Viral RNA may be detected in the blood, but no transmission of COVID-19 has been documented, with very few cases whatever documented through this route. Till date, no studies have been identified uh, SARS-CoV-2 in the surgical smoke, and even if it is found, it is not known whether these viruses are infectious or not. So, viral DNA of other blood-borne viral pathogens like hepatitis B, HIV, and has been detected in the surgical plume after the use of surgical energy like electrosurgery, lasers, harmonic scalpel. But there is no evidence to indicate that the use of electrosurgery during the laparoscopy increases the risk of disease transmission through the surgical plume or the pneumoperitoneum. So, surgery in these patients with HIV, hepatitis B or the C has been ongoing for the decades, but without the documented increased risk of transmission from the surgical plume or pneumoperitoneum to the surgeons, anesthesiologists, or other OT persons. So, when possible, laparoscopic techniques that significantly minimizes the exposure of surgeons to bloodborne pathogens are preferred to the laparotomy. Sorry. What we learned from other pandemic at present is, although COVID-19 is a novel disease, evidence from the similar respiratory viruses such as influenza, SARS, and Middle East respiratory distress syndrome have not shown any disease transmission through the surgical plume or the laparoscopic gas during the previous epidemic or through the annual influenza seasons. So there are no compelling data to support the notion that the respiratory bloodborne infectious viruses are transmitted through the surgical plume or through the aerolized gas. So we must also consider the adverse impact of adopting overarching policy changes such as laparotomy is better during the COVID-19 pandemic because of theoretic aerolization risk on the basis of erroneous assumptions. So When we come to the high risk, who are high risk? When the patients are more than 60, when patient has a cancer with other comorbidities, the perioperative morbidity may be high as 20% in the high risk patients. ICU admission and the mortality goes from 8 to 39% if the patients are COVID positive. So, whom we should screen? This is very difficult clinical scenario at present. What we can consider is by practical or clinical experience, we can think if the patients have symptoms, any contact history, if the patients are coming from high risk environment. This is mainly because mainly what resources we have, the testing kits and the turnover time, what we have is difficult for us. Initially in our center also few patients elective cases, when we started operating 10 days back, we started checking for each and every patients, but now we are not getting the kits also, and the ICR recommendation also will be changing. Depending on that, we should adapt ourselves. And false negative rate is also up to 30% in these cases. So what we should consider, laparoscopy or laparotomy? As already we know that laparoscopy has a less morbidity, less hospital stay, less spillage of tissue or the fluid. What is the potential risk to the staff through the aerolization? Because in laparoscopy it is controlled aerolization, because we can suck it out, we can connect it to filters, but the actual risk is still not known for us. And when we compare with the laparotomy, it is more morbid, long hospital stay. When we use electrosurgery, aerolization risk is uncontrolled in open surgeries. So what is the decision making factor? So we should analyze the risk and benefit, and patient exposure, comorbidity condition, and the well-being, the healthcare professional exposures, and lastly the resources conservation, which include the hospital beds, ventilators, and PPE kit and medication for the future conservation. So we should consider all these things, and we should analyze and then take a decision for the elective cases. So, how to protect ourselves, healthcare professionals? As we have N95, which gives protection up to zero point 0.3 microns, and powered air purification respirators, PARP, provides the highest protection. The protection factors is between 25 to 1000 depending on the type. When we compare to N95, which has a protection factor of 10. Other thing is PPE, and waiting period in the OR after the intubation or extubation. Uh, and by keeping a low pneumoperitoneal pressures, if we have trocars with one-way valves and proper functioning washers, which is always helpful for all of us. So these are the power air purification respirators. This is mainly filters whatever the dust particles, bacteria, virus, which has been used in various specialities, even the factories, because it will entrap the dust, especially in the wooden factories, chemical factories, spray painting, and in biosafety labs. So these have been used in many other specialities and other factories also. These we have with a full face mask, half face mask, and this one has with the oxygen connection for these things. So with this, what I'm wearing in this is full face mask. So this has a silicone tightening which will cover the whole face, and this has the filters on the sides, so we can change it, and we can even sterilize this whole face mask. And we have even half face which will cover the nose and the mouth, especially those who are using the routinely spectacles. This may not benefit, so in those cases half face mask, or we can use go for this oxygen cylinder connection. These are a bit costly compared to these simple ones. So other thing is routinely using PPE with over that we can use it OT gowns, whatever routinely we are using. Equipments which lower the risk in laparoscopy by reducing the aerolization. So already we have a trocars. A proper fitting trocar size is more important. one way valve trocars, if we have we can use it those things also. And especially during the surgery, changing too many, replacing too many instruments should be avoided as far as surgery is concerned, because the loss of gas which will be converted to aerolization is not good for us. And the smoke evacuators. So, by electrosurgical smoke, whatever is produced with a bipolar is less than zero point 0.1 microns, and with a laser zero point 0.3 microns, and with the ultrasonic scalpel it's zero point 0.3 to 6.5 microns. So, potential risk from the theoretic aspect. Whatever we use the filters for the release of carbon dioxide during the laparoscopy and laparotomy, we have a ultra low particulate air filters which will filter up to zero point 0.1 microns, and then high efficacy air filters, HEPA filters, up to zero point 0.3 microns in diameter. Although whatever mRNA, which is RNA of a COVID-19, which is not directly transmitted, which is usually transmitted as a water droplets or through the gas. So these filters may benefit in our most of the cases. So whatever available evacuators, smoke evacuators, these are the few smoke evacuators. The ConeMed has a plume port, the Striker, and the Striker ConeMed has with even pneumoclear with the insufflator integrated system for the smoke evacuation also. So this is one of them, AirSeal ConeMed, which has even insufflation, which has a smoke evacuator also. This has a three tubing cells for the infiltration, evacuation, and everything. So the cost wise, which will be high because it has an insufflation system also. The other one is Pneumoclear by Striker, which also has integrated heating, humidification, and smoke evacuation system. All these are mainly to evacuate our smoke, to prevent aerolization, and to have a clear picture during the surgery in the laparoscopy. This is something plume port, which is also very simple, which we connect into a small 5 mm port, and which has a filter, which the you can keep it depending on the flow how much you want. We can connect this directly into the suction, or you can connect into a sodium hypochlorite, these things, either vacuum suction, all these things we can connect and adjust the flow rate also. The other one is Valley Lab. This also has a ULPA protection with the filters up to efficacy of 99.9%. In the similar way, one end we can connect it to trocar, other one with the suction for the evacuation. In our hospital, what we are following simple measure is, at present I am not getting still got these things. So we have heat and moisture exchange filters. These have been used by anesthesiologists for cases like especially humidifying and filtering function for the upper airways, especially in case of ICU patients, infected patients for the ventilators, and normal infected patients in the OT setup. So they have a bacterial and viral filters with efficacy of 99.9%. At present, we are using this clear thermomicro, which filtration is achieved for even larger particles also by internal impaction and interception. So yeah, it will even has a function which when work in wet condition also. And we connect this into Romosil underwater drainage cap. This is usually used especially in case of pneumothorax, refusion, pulmonary and cardiac procedure, water seal drainage system. So we fill with distilled water with 1 to 5% of a sodium hypochlorite solution for this exit of the filters. So at present, what recommendation we can come practically are by whatever the associations have been. This is one of the recommendation which has been published in Journal of Gastrointestinal Surgeons. So by minimizing the use of energy devices, which is a strong recommendation, by closed circuit with the smoke evacuation devices with high efficacy particulate HEPA filters are available equivalent substitute, which is also a strong recommendation. And PPE also to a certain extent, by keeping the low pneumoperitoneal pressures and desufflating the abdomen before the smoke evacuation device or suction. Other in gynecology is mainly a tissue extraction. We can put the tissue in endobag and release the pneumoperitoneum either through smoke evacuators and then desufflate and then remove the tissue. This will minimize the aerolization, and by minimizing, replacing the many instruments during the procedure. So with our recent journal on these available evidences, US Joint Professional Society statement on minimally invasive gynecology during the COVID-19 pandemic, and the European Joint Society statements endorsing the laparoscopy as a safe surgical approach in this present clinical setting. So when we come to the hysteroscopy, what we know is the risk is still unknown in this also, but the theoretical risk is low. Why means there is no aerosol generating procedure. The current evidence indicates that SARS-CoV-2 is not present in the vaginal secretions. Although electrosurgery during the hysteroscopy produces a smoke, but it is mostly confined to the uterine cavity, which can be released through outflow suction. So whenever available hysteroscopic tissue removal system, if we have, it is more advantageous. And we can connect this to suction device that will benefit for us, and even if it is aerosol generating procedure. Better to do under spinal if we have option or an outpatient for these kind of patients also. So at present, we are in still a dilemma and we don't know the future, whether it's a laparotomy because it is still uncontrolled with electrosurgery, everything. At least in laparoscopy, we have a suction, smoke evacuators. We have already recently from 10 days, past 10 days, we have started our cases. Hope this may benefit for you. We will conclude the session. Hope it may help for your clinical knowledge also, practically also. Thank you very much.